Well, hello everybody. I want to do this live. It's critical knowledge, as I always find when things get to be a juggle and a lot's going on and you're being strayed in different directions. It's because something major's happening right under your nose, so to speak. And I've learned over the years when that happens to me, I quickly start looking at news, and I just want to say to everybody, thanks for all the support in my international law class. It's not today, so yeah, I have my calendar mixed up. I spent the last half hour resetting that. It's actually next Tuesday, the Tuesday after, and then there's a 2 week break. So I have to be diligent, keep that logged. I've got well over a month and a half now scheduled, and I'm going to continue to do that and be diligent because I can't miss any of those classes or it was all in vain and I won't get any credit. And I definitely want credit for this. But this video is huge, everybody. Massive, massive. And of course, the Liberal Party of Canada, Chrystia Freeland, in this budget release, she says $5 billion guaranteed loans to Indigenous folks, low interest to get into Canadian natural resources that are provincial privy. Now, folks, there's been a lot, and right now I'm in depth, real depth, on the Supreme Court decision to take away quite a bit from Treaty 7, folks, and it's all on land. And what's really troubling about that decision is they say we're going to apply provincial law to Treaty 7's case so that nobody there can go after the government for any lawsuit or anything else financial because they're saying the provincial statute of limitations on property has expired. Folks, the Indian Act 1876, and a lot of folks are bringing to my awareness that they're pushing through another attempt change of the Indian Act, and they're going to change language, change all kinds of things involved in enfranchisement. And I mean, that would be great if you could ever trust the Canadian government. And I don't. And I'm going to break some of that down and get into this explosive truth for all Canadians, all First Peoples. Now, in 1867, this country, Canada, was imposed upon us. It was a direct design from the British Empire. No, we were a country, but no, we didn't have any sovereignty. No, we didn't have any real independence, and we were codified that way. Basically, a country colony of the British Empire, old world order. Brutal design where all the people in Canada are subjects. And when you read the Canadian Constitution, the first written design, not in customary law or some high society, supreme ruler, dictator, emperor, king, whatever name you want to give it, salt, and we can go on and on. It's all from a divine elite for many, many thousands of years. Now, Canada was the first country to codify that they held private and was made public for the whole world. And of course, it's no accident that it was done post American Revolution and America removing all forms of colonialism from itself entirely, from all its 50 states. And make no mistakes, that was what really the Civil War was about. And of course, yes, racism's there, civil rights abuses is all there. America was the country that was eradicating that from its codified, meaning written highest laws of the land. They were removing it and removing any idea of those evils. Now Canada said, whoa, we're going to keep ours the way it is, and that's why it was created, and it was put in writing, highest laws of the land, something to rival the United States, stifle the United States, and show the world that no, these big empires would continue on, and to hell with that kind of we the people system. Now in 1867, all Canadians that were made Canadian were made subjects. It was clear. It's written from then till today, never amended. Never amended. Some amendments have come, 11 in fact, and none of those have ever promised you anything of any real we the people or citizenship. In fact, when you read the Canadian Constitutional Acts of Canada from 1867 all the way up to 1982, and some other level amendments since, we've had others in different procedure, not that it made a major change to the Constitution, but the major changes we needed was the idea of 1867, them defining us as subjects, slaves, or lesser level peoples under those who are codified as the citizens. And if you read your Constitutional Acts of Canada, completely 180 degrees opposite the United States. There's no we the people, there's them, the elite, and they're labeled and named throughout the first many pages of the Constitution. In fact, you've got to go a long way, page after page, before you even get to anything remotely close to what we are in this system. And that's not an accident. More than that, after that was done, they took all the First Peoples and put them under an Indian Act because they weren't done destroying them yet. And of course, that would rage on like many strifes we see throughout the world as savage defined people, non-human beings. And that's what they did. Now, why I bring all this up is you read the 1876 Indian Act that now the Liberals promise they're going to amend, make great changes to. But now they're saying there's going to be loans from that provincial power in resources and land that the subjects are going to insure for what they define as the savage peoples. See the problem here? And they say, oh, don't worry, we're going to have more laws to change all that. Folks, all debt in the Canadian system, regardless of its household category, corporate category, or public category, at the end of the day, according to the Constitutional Acts of Canada, only those defined as subjects, not listed in all those hierarchy of divine human beings, the real citizens that are 0.01 or 0002 to be deadly accurate here, 0.0002% of Canada listed in your Constitutional Acts, many pages. You're not there because you're the subjects. You're always those on the hook for all the money blown, your value, your children's value as good little slaves. Now, First Peoples may think this is some kind of great thing that Chrystia Freeland is presenting. Loans, and we're going to make them available, and you're going to have to pay interest in the provincial system that's being entirely removed from you, the listed, legally spoken of, legally written in their highest laws, not mine, nothing I have ever published, what they have published. This is not the United States. It's not even how the United States operates. It's the Indian citizen. In Canada, they say, oh, Indigenous, and they take these laws that were shot down, again, by the highest authority of the world in binding international law. Shot it all down. Canada's going forward anyway. And where does it come from? Again, the British Empire system. So you can never, ever trust it. Don't trust the government, not in Canada, because it doesn't give all those things that all of our ancestors, largely lots of us, our ancestors gave their lives for, to fight for our freedoms, for a new world that was supposed to be void of all these things, but they're still there for Canada entirely, and they're never going away. They've never once opened the books on the federal constitution to remove any of these terms, and these huge human rights violations written in our highest laws. And Chrystia Freeland's out there saying we're going to give $5 billion in loans that all First Peoples can get at government set interest rates, and it's all going to work out. We're going to let you have access to resources we took from you. We're going to let you get in there and be like one of us, the first class. But you're not. You're not legally written that way. They say, don't worry, later on down the road, we're going to do that for you. Later on down the road, when's that? It's been over 150 years. In fact, it's been 157 years, and Canada's never changed nothing. In fact, has continued to abuse and abuse and abuse. They've always got an angle, narrative, and for First Peoples, that's to thin you out, breed you out, murder, rape, destroy, culturally assassinate. I don't think I really have to go into any major details on the history of this, because it's clearly proven, and every liberal that's ever done anything or presented anything for First Peoples has always been to their destruction, really, or another way of cheating people out of what should be theirs. Now, when I talk about Crown land, folks, 90% of Canada is not available to any of the defined subjects or any of the defined savages. Again, none of these words are mine. They're not mine. I didn't write them. I didn't make the laws of Canada that are in place, active, forever and a day for subjects, 1867, all the way through. No one talks about it. It's supposed to be normalized. Don't worry. You can trust us, who are codified in somehow an omnipotence where there's no accountability because they're better people, right? They're real high people. They don't need accountability because they're like God, right? Wrong. And for all First Peoples, you're defined in this federalism, as limited as it is, as less than human. In fact, they codify you out of any true federalism and apparently flip-flop back and forth however they choose. And we can go back. I'm not even really afraid anymore because I can say these things because I can prove it, and it's not even really hard to prove because it's on all the government websites. It's even in British encyclopedia history. You can go through Britain, you'll find it. You can go in the United States, you find that history logged, well documented. It's not a secret. It's just people choose to read and see what they want to see. Now, like I said, for the First Peoples, since the rebellion, the Northwest Rebellion, Louis Riel, if you don't know the story, he was tried and executed as a subject, even though that is long after treaties were established, Métis was established, Inuit was established in their highest laws. They chose to prosecute Louis Riel as a subject, even though everyone will know for a fact that he was Métis. And in fact, lots of the First Peoples involved were in fact treaty Indians, 1876, 1885, right? 1876, we put this law, we codified you this way, and our highest law over all of these people, right? Defined as savages, removed from any of the rights of everybody else in this country, which means you're really less. But then you, over and over again, and it's example after example, we just watched Chief Justice Wagner, all of the Canadian Supreme Court, pick and choose when subject laws will apply to what they define as the savage people under an act that removes all provincial and territorial powers from those First Peoples. But when it's to their advantage, or when they want to enforce things, they say, now we're going to go and apply that federalism. Now we're going to apply that term subject to those we define as savages that we legally removed. Just look at the treaties. We removed you from any and all provincial. All reserves are under absolutely the federal government. This isn't a shocker. It's not a thing that people can just say, hey, it's not like that. It is like that. It is like that. Outside of the settlement of Alberta, the only province in Canada, during one party called the Social Credit Party, it decided to make a deal with Métis in Treaty 8's lands, numbered treaty. Then they create this whole web of Métis overlap. This is the whole con job of it. Mix, match, flip, flop, whatever the Crown wants to do. Law works this way when we say it does. Our courts will operate the way we tell it to when we pick up the phone or we type a secured email through our Crown privilege. Because all the justices, like every constitutional monarchy or dictatorship or pure autocracy out there works, and all of history works, that it's King's Court or the Emperor's Court. Old world order stuff that the Allies said can't exist in the world today. You will give people full independence, self-determination, self-government. You can't define people that way. These are binding world laws. Canada says, hey, what they don't know doesn't hurt them, and we're not going to follow those laws. We're going to stay just under the abuse level right here that the Allies drew, this percentage. We're going to just float just before it. We're going to con, lie, cheat, steal, and continue it forward. Canadians and First Peoples will never see that 90% of the Crown land. We will constantly, through slavery tactics on those subjects, divide First Peoples, divide Canadians, divide racially, divide spiritually, divide culturally, divide languagely. They know what they're doing. It's a very old tactic. It's the reason why our immigration is so aggressive, more aggressive than anywhere else. And yet nobody talks about one of the largest countries in the world with a small population, yet everybody's densely compact, with super overinflated property values in a terrible climate, and nobody can look at that for what it is. Somehow people don't see it. Somehow people don't see that Chrystia Freeland is a socialist fascist, as Trudeau is. These are the sickest of the sick. They're not just extreme socialist folks. They're extreme fascists. They go hand in hand. All monarchies are designed that way. They define human beings as divine, that elite. Then they have a pyramid scheme of classes of subject where you get assigned equity in your class. You can't achieve ever over that equity. Right now, Chrystia Freeland is selling every Canadian off on their devaluation. They're going to give out loans to First Peoples who really shouldn't be getting any loans, shouldn't be getting loans at all. Why? Because that should be their land. And we should have that Crown land taken and divided out. Not, you can borrow money from our subjects and they'll insure it. We don't care if it fails or goes or you can't get a startup. We're going to give you their money, their hard-earned labor and their GDP to you so that you can play on our land, not yours, ours. We're the Crown. We're going to make all the money like we always do. And if you go tits up, that's your problem. You're still going to have to pay back the loans. And if you go bankrupt, who cares? All our subjects will go bankrupt paying for it. We don't care. We're all going to get stinkily rich. Us, our friends, all banks, right? Because banks are under the Bank of Canada, who's got a Crown position, appointed, again, by the Prime Minister through Governor General, just like the court system, just like the military, just like the police. Everybody's sworn to it, all government. 5 charter banks are not independent of that, folks. They don't follow any American law or any international law. They go by the crown. Fill your pockets. Lie, cheat, rob, rape, pillage, plunder everybody else. And it's a divide and it's a conquer. The biggest thing that has to happen in Canada is the crown lands must be made available to, yes, all the First Peoples, yes, all Canadians, and then we go together, separate and together, just like the real wampum belt, the 2 strips, 2 canoes. That's how it's supposed to be. A long time ago, a great lie was created and a great trick was done on the First Peoples. When you met those British on the ships, the French, the Spanish, the Portuguese, everything was under doctrine of discovery or papal bull doctrine. And they were never, ever going to put you in a canoe with them because they don't go in a canoe. Their slaves are in the canoe. You will go forever in the slave canoe beside the slaves, and they assigned you savage title. This is their legal truth, not mine. I didn't make up any of these terms. You'll find a rich history of every major politician saying and doing this over the years, and even if they don't use the words, they've certainly implemented all that policy and procedure, no different than it was in 1867, no different than it is today. They never uniformly apply laws. They never, ever use anything unless it's for their benefit, which means you can't predict anything. Academics say, oh, look, the Supreme Court of Canada is the most powerful court in the world. A lot of academics see that. Look, they make decisions, they look at stuff, they can create new cases. They're not independent, and they're certainly not creating any new cases. It's when precedent law isn't going to work, or they're caught with the government with their pants down. They say, who cares? We're going to pretend that you're independent. We're going to tell you what we want, and you're going to do it. And if you ever doubt that, folks, all you have to look at, all the Supreme Court justices are appointed by Prime Minister through Governor General, who puts them in, and they're sworn to Governor General, who again is appointed by the Prime Minister. Underneath that, for all the provinces and territories, this is forever and a day, folks. And if you want to know what your provincial and territorial constitutions say, look to your Lieutenant Governor. So, Lieutenant Governor is all provinces. Again, how did the Lieutenant Governor get there? Appointed by the Governor General, who is appointed by the Prime Minister. The Governor General selects. Who do you think is handpicking them all, right? It's the illusion of democracy. There's no vote here, right? No real vote. You voted in your divine dictator, and from there, they get all of it. When you read your provincial constitutions, known as the Executive Powers Act, Newfoundland's came when Newfoundland joined, 52. They were in talks. They thought, oh, we're going to have an independent Canada. King George VI, of course, he died, and it was, tricked you, Newfoundland. By the way, here's your new Lieutenant Governor. That is all there is to your provincial constitution. That is every province's provincial constitution, a divine right of a king, which is whomever you've elected Prime Minister. What people don't understand in Canada, all First Peoples, all Canadians, is you will never ever get any kind of real democracy. You get to elect your dictator. Provincially or territorially, in the territorial commissioners are the same crown rank as Lieutenant Governor. They're all appointed by Governor General of Canada. Oh yeah. All have extreme ties through royalty, through the United Kingdom. It's there still to this day. Most of the people are from other crown colonial jewels throughout the world. Oh, sure, they got Canadian status, right? And then, of course, they went right into the first class because they were first class in the crown they came from. Look at all your lieutenant governors. It's over and over the same thing. Privileged people from all over the Commonwealth and colonial world come here. When my husband's a doctor, my wife's a chief justice from another colonial country, right? They come here to continue on what they were doing back in the country they came from, being divine, being elite in a system that subjugates people, and worse, is complicit and complacent with defining people as less than human beings, defining them as savages. Again, folks, this is all real, credible, and verifiable. What Chrystia, Freeland, and Justin Trudeau are doing has been rinsed, repeat, and tried and tried and tried, and they keep getting better at lying, cheating, stealing, and manipulating. And they're doing it right now. That's what this is. Why would First Peoples need loans to get into resources and land projects on their treated lands? Because 90% of it is Crown land, and it's theirs. They own it, and all their wealthy, elite friends all over the world. And they make deals. We all get to make a little money out of it by our labor and toil, but we don't really get any of those resources. They just tax us out of it anyway. And they borrow tremendously now against all the subjects, and that's what they're promising all the First Peoples. Don't worry, we're going to punch holes in the canoe beside your canoe that you guys travel together to fill your canoe with extra pieces, except for you're going to run out of pieces from the one canoe. And they know that. They know that you're both going to sink together. This is the greatest con. Now, are there crown-appointed positions of First Peoples all over Canada? Absolutely, since the system was created. They did that. So you get the few to corrupt, just like the rest of the Canadian crown. They're corrupted. They fill their pockets, while the many go down the toilet. And that is always and forever what's happening in Canada. I will be curious to see how this S3 bill looks like in the end. I already know what I suspect it to be. Remember, in Canada, there's 3 readings. There's 3 Senate, if they presented it. Then there's 3 House, or vice versa. If it was a House bill, meaning a C numerical or an S numerical Senate introduced, or C numerical House of Commons introduced. Either way, both houses review, read it 3 times, and make many changes. And if you haven't been paying attention, and I know a lot of people are waking up, it's just like the gun grab. It started out this big, and like I said before, by the time, mysteriously, on the last reading, the Senate rolls out a piece of paper list that would roll right under my door. It'd be massive long. It started out like this and turned into a 20-page document I could roll out right out my room under the door. And you know what, folks? Massive change from what was said to what it became. Just like everything else Canada ever does. They have a scam going. A House, a Senate, it don't matter. It's a major, major scam. And this is what we get. And that's truth, reality. It's credible, real, verifiable. I'm going to continue on this, keep people updated so they know. And we're going to see where it goes. But that is the truth of what the Liberals are doing right now. Justin Trudeau, Chrystia, Freeland. No different than white papers and every other scam. When they rolled out Aboriginal, they come up with these new names. The last one was sick, if not sicker than the first. And the one before that, like, we're going to trick everybody with new names, new language. When really the abuse, because that legal design's still always there. And it's never going to change. Indigenous is not international law. UNDRIP is not international law. And when you don't have the allies of World War II forging something and cementing it world binding, you're in big trouble because you're not aligned with the allies. Now, If you didn't see World War II, Axis ally, you're on the Axis side. When you start seeing your country pull out laws and implement laws that the Allies shot down, that means you're implementing Axis laws, which means socialist and fascist. And that means that there's going to be a whole bunch of people who are not human beings and a whole bunch of slaves. That's what we're really talking about here. And it just amazes me that so many can't see this when the writing is right on the wall. It's easy when you go through the Constitution of Canada. It's easy when you go into comparative law and you start looking at other countries all over the world. So many. Now, there are crummy countries, but remember, folks, sure, there's a lot of places say, Canada's a great place. Well, it should be. It's got the most resources in the entire world with a tremendously low population. Scratch your head. So why is it we're not all wealthy? Why aren't First Peoples wealthy? Why aren't Canadians wealthy? Because pound for pound, population and landmass and availability and everything we can generate, people should be wealthy. We shouldn't be a debt-ridden country on the brink in our situation. You shouldn't. And any real economist would easily be able to roll through this in its truth and say, yeah, why is it Canada, with all its tremendous resources, its number one trading partner south, and all these amazing things about it, why are the people in such depravity? Why are people squished so badly? Why are people financially oppressed so badly? Why is it in the climate we have, our property values are through the roof? Well, it's the tax structure. It's that simple. Why are we so high on the taxation? Why are we in the top socialist countries in the world? That doesn't even include the fascism. When you start going through our fascism, like I have over the last 3 years, you start to see it for what it is. Oh, don't worry, everybody. Elect me. I'm a small socialist. You're still going to get all my crap socialism, but you're going to get this much fascism. Oh, don't listen to him. You get this much socialism with me and that much fascism. Folks, these are not things we should be cheering for, we should be voting for, or aspiring to see through in any election cycle. That means provincially, federally, territorially, doesn't matter. That's truly what's wrong here, folks. This video is explosive. There's a ton of things to look at, folks. There's a ton here for people to really sift through, look at as it really is. And you can't deny it. You can't just say, that's not true, or this isn't right, or, you're crazy, you're cockamamie. I'm watching explosive video right now. The C40, the 15-minute cities. I'm probably one of, if not the first you can find anywhere on the internet. You'll find it on my Facebook many, many years ago. Before it was even ruled cockamamie. I've been chasing this stuff since Alberta independence. I'm probably the first one. Easy, 2018, rolling that out. And I go into post till 2021. Then I kind of let it go because people weren't gravitating to it. I had a tremendous full-on escalation of it. My last major was in the city of Edmonton against Justin Trudeau's bestest buddy, Mayor Iverson at the time. And they were pretty much trying to laugh me out of this major assembly of all wealthy elites right in my home city, Edmonton. And now people don't laugh at that. Now I'm watching videos, 26, 30,000 likes and thousands of shares. I'm just like, wow, I hit that in its entirety 6 years ago fighting alone. And I think for that one, the C40, putting it together, and the 15-minute cities, which scares me because it means a lot of folks are 6 years behind me, the mainstream, which means they haven't even got into the bread and butter of the crown, what the real access and some of the allies were of the time and what the old world order is. It means they don't understand, and they still have this, it's the evil UN, even though it's a corruption of the UN from this old world order, from all that, which has always been 15-minute cities when you really look at it. Anyone with European descendancy, especially being Canadian, British roots and stories, because I know my roots, my family, Romanian, England, Scotland, Ireland, like so many people, Finland, then I have the other side, Norwegian, Swedish, and all the stories. Like I got that as a child, and it scares me because it's like, are these going to disappear with my generation? Is it like I'm at that, just at that edge where that's all disappearing? Like the stories of how bad it was in London from the old world, and your little piece of coal to heat the house, and all the things we're going through today have been done so many times in so many periods before us, long before us, and then the explosions and the rebellions, the independence, and they just keep recycling, and people don't get that it's a system, a very old system of, again, sorry to say, subjects and savages. And many presidents in the United States warn that you're only ever one generation away from falling right back into it. And again, for those who don't know, the worst thing Joe Biden did that shows what he really is the Atlantic Charter 2021. And if you can't read 1941's Atlantic Charter, print it out, look at that document, those pages, they're not many. I believe it's only 8. And the new Atlantic Charter is only about the same. And you can't lay those documents beside each other and go, read, compare, and go, holy crap. And then start chasing the Green New Deal and this climate socialism, fascism, and you chase it right to the old world order, League of Nations, and all the empires that the Allies had to defeat and transform, but they didn't finish the job. And although they've gone very strong again today, and all those ancient ideas that should be ancient news, more than 75 years old, should be gone. Not fresh paint on the table, ready to be implemented and to exploit everybody, divide everybody, conquer everybody. And if you haven't figured it out, biggest words you should really learn: equity of the person and equality of the person. Go through Webster's, Lexilogos, go through Oxford, and learn your differences. You can go, there's a French version, because of course France and the whole French language was before English, and even the highest laws of even the British Empire were done in French. And the first Oxford, it starts with an H, I'll have to get it, but it's where we get into their specific language that none of the subjects, peasants, or savage people would ever know, because they were kept dumbed down. They weren't educated for it. They couldn't read or write, and that made it easy for them. The world's changed. We have internet. We all have to be diligent. I've been on this road a long time. I stay off of the cockamamie and crazy, and I stick with what is and what the government does. And when you learn to do that, and you really do that, you'll see things for as they are, like what Chrystia, Freeland, and Justin Trudeau promised to do to all of us. Sad, sick, and depraved, for sure. Scary stuff. God bless everybody. Share. Get it out there. Bye now.